Alrighty, I'm back. I'm sorry that I missed 2 days, but boy, has it been a hectic couple of weeks? But that's all personal. You folks don't care about that. What you may care about is that I was dead wrong about Ron DeSantis running for president. I am here to completely admit how wrong I was on that. And you know, a big part of the utility of this channel is that it forces me to hold myself accountable. I purposefully go out on a limb on this channel, not so much to impress people, because I don't think a lot of people are listening, but more to hold myself accountable and to force me to look back, to have concrete proof that, yeah, you said that and you were wrong. Now, sometimes I'm right, and that's nice. It feels nice to be right. And I try to tell you folks whenever I am right. But this time I was wrong, because I said that I did not think that Ron DeSantis would run for president in 2024. And that's because I did not see the utility in it. It didn't really make sense to me. I looked at, the trajectory of his career. He's only really gotten popular nationally since 2020. He's got 4 more years to play it safe in the governor's mansion up in Tallahassee. There's a lot that he can do in that time to pad his resume. So why rush into anything? Why try and jump into the presidency when you still got 2 years left on your gubernatorial term? If you wait it out until your term is over, you'll have nothing on your plate, and you can campaign 24 hours a day the second you leave office. You can give your farewell address, as governor when you're leaving office, and make it your 2028 campaign announcement speech, because old Donald Trump, he can't serve 2 terms because he's already served 1. He'll be term limited even if he were to win in 2024. And theoretically, old Ronnie D would be heir apparent. But as we've seen in recent weeks, I think it's become 100% certain that Ron DeSantis is running for president because he's got a book deal. He's out touring the country with his nonsensical coffee table book that nobody's going to read, but yet is a bestseller. We get these books every presidential election cycle when people want to run for president. It's a dead giveaway. There's no other way to put it. That, and we're already seeing super PACs out there running DeSantis campaign ads. Now, it's not DeSantis himself, so it's not official. These super PACs have as much knowledge, probably, about whether or not DeSantis is going to run for president, as I do. But it would be kind of strange to see ads for a candidate who doesn't end up running. But the book, that was the final straw for me. I am certain now, at the end of this legislative session in Florida, which is at the end of May, the session actually hasn't even begun, technically, but at the end of the next legislative session, DeSantis is going to officially announce that he's running for president. But we will all know full well before then, long before then. The whole country will know that he's running for president. Just like, remember these stupid presidential exploratory committees that these people start so that they can solicit donations before they're officially running for president. I think I've only seen one time in my life where someone opened a presidential, campaign exploratory committee and didn't end up actually running for president. And the only reason why someone would open an exploratory committee and then not run for president is because when they opened their committee, they found that nobody was giving them money. And so they said, well, gee, I can't run for president if I don't have any money. DeSantis is not going to have that problem. As soon as he gives the okay hand sign, as white supremacists such as DeSantis are wont to do, the donors are going to flood in. We know that's not going to be an issue. And frankly, I think that that's probably a big advantage that he has in this primary against El Donaldo Trumpo, because Trump, I think it's safe to say, has abused his small donor base. The people, the $5 to $20 donors, the $20 to $100 donors, the people who give, little bits of money out of their paycheck, which is a lot of money to them. It might be their next meal. It might be their electric bill that they're willing to give to Trump. Trump's people have abused these folks by constantly pounding the mailing list, asking for more money, more money, more money. And they do it in the most condescending ways imaginable. They do things such as, hey, we have 24 hours left to save the republic, and so you have to donate $20 by 9 p.m. tonight, or else America is finished. And then if you don't actually donate money, then they'll text you again and they'll say, we thought you stood with Trump. We thought you were a patriot. You're a traitor. I mean, they literally do this. They call people traitors. They text message their own donors and say, you're a traitor because they didn't give tribute that week. It's disgusting. And frankly, I think that Trump has burned a lot of small donor bridges with that. Hundreds of thousands at the very least. And so he's going to have trouble raising money from small donors. He's going to have to pay more out of pocket because Desantis, when he runs, is going to gobble up the donor money. I mean, this is a big critique that Trump supporters have of DeSantis, is that they say if DeSantis was such a good guy, he wouldn't be so attractive to the donor class. And so before I get too far in the weeds, I do want to address why I was wrong. And the only explanation that has made sense to me, because I think that my logic about why DeSantis should wait makes a lot of sense. But the only argument I've heard that makes even more sense came from one Steve Deace. So hat tip to Mr. Deace. And the point he gave, the example that he cited as to why DeSantis should and frankly must run in 2024 rather than in 2028 was Chris Christie. You look at Chris Christie, some of you folks, most probably don't remember, back in 2012, Chris Christie was a rock star of the right. He was the hero of the base. He was the one sticking it to the teachers' unions, and he wasn't afraid about being politically correct. He was a crass fatso, and he was willing to tell you off. Unlike that Mitt Romney character who was all buttoned up, goody two shoes. Chris Christie put his finger in your chest and shout you down, spit in your face, while he's got a donut in his left hand. He was, in a way, Trump before Trump. He had those blue-collar mannerisms, despite being a former federal prosecutor, which is what he decided to really double down on when he finally ran for president in 2016. But in 2012, if Chris Christie had won, or if Chris Christie had run, he would have had a very good chance of winning the Republican nomination, and perhaps even beating Barack Obama. I think he would have a better chance than Romney, certainly, beating Barack Obama. I mean, he was the governor of New Jersey. There is something to be said for that. Maybe New Jersey could have been in play. I know every cycle Republicans, they look at New Jersey and they think, oh my gosh, could New Jersey be in play? Well, actually in 2021, New Jersey kind of was in play. The Republican came pretty close there. Or was that 22? I can't even remember now. The years blend together. But anyway, Chris Christie didn't end up running in 2012. He ran in 2016. He waited his turn after he had served his full term as governor. And by then, people were tired of him. Folks in New Jersey hated him. He was a laughingstock. And he never once made it out of the undercard debate in the 2016 Republican nomination. Remember, they had to do 2 rounds of debates for every president, every primary debate for a long time in the Republican primary because there were so many candidates. And Chris Christie was always a second-tier candidate, despite being a rock star back in 2012. And why is that? Because each candidate has a moment. And Chris Christie's moment had passed. He was old news. And people were tired of him. They moved on to bigger and better things. They moved on to Trump. They moved on to Ted Cruz. They moved on to even Ben Carson, Rand Paul. There were a lot of people who were more prominent in the Republican primary than Chris Christie by 2016. And Ron DeSantis, if he doesn't run in 2024, if he's really a power-hungry guy who wants to be president, he may not get that chance by 2028. Nobody may remember who Ron DeSantis is by 2028. By 2026, when he, or 2020, early 2027, January or whatever, when the new governor of Florida is inaugurated after DeSantis, after he finishes out this current term, this term which begins in 2023, DeSantis may not even be popular anymore. People may be tired of him. They may say, you know what, no, go away. We're putting Charlie Crist back in there. Remember, not once upon a time, Charlie Crist was actually the governor of Florida. He could win statewide elections here, and now he struggles to break 40%. And so you never know. I'm not saying that Ron DeSantis is going to, flame out and be a nobody. But what I'm saying is you run that chance. Because you tell me, between 2012 and 2016, who changed more? Did Chris Christie change? Or did we change? Did we, the voters, change? Did our standards get higher? Did we raise our standards? Did we change our tastes? Did we decide, you know what? No, we need something even more different. I mean, that's a terrible way of wording it. It makes me sound like an idiot. But we need something not extreme in like a political sense, but extreme in a rhetorical sense, extreme in an emotional sense than Chris Christie, especially since Chris Christie was marketing himself on his pedigree as being a former federal prosecutor rather than, being a no-nonsense guy. Even no-nonsense Chris Christie was too nonsensical for the GOP base by then. They wanted more straight shooters. They wanted people who wanted to shake things up. Remember, Ted Cruz had to get out of his comfort zone. He's a pretty uptight guy, and he had to come up with more outlandish rhetoric to try and keep up with the base. He said, he didn't just say, hey, ISIS is bad. He said, we're going to carpet bomb ISIS. What was the other thing he used to say? Oh, we're going to abolish the IRS. Neither of which were really, they didn't really mean anything. It's not like Ted Cruz was going to abolish federal taxation. He wasn't going to do that. And carpet bomb ISIS, what does that even mean? But, this is just Cruz trying to play to the moment, which I guess is at least more than Christie did in 16. So anyway, DeSantis is the it boy this year. If anyone has a chance of taking down old Trumpo, it's Ronnie D. And I'm not saying that he should, necessarily. I didn't think that he should run. I didn't think it was in his best interests. I don't really know if I would prefer him or the other. I mean, Trump's done plenty of things to piss me off from when he was president. And so, I can give DeSantis credit because he didn't do those things as president that Trump did, but DeSantis hasn't been president yet. I'm sure DeSantis will do things to piss me off too once he becomes president. And so I try and be as objective as possible. It's easy for me to get emotional and pick any one of the things that Trump did as president, hell, the bump stock ban, and say, you know what, I'm never voting for that bastard. Almost starting a war with Iran, you know what, I'm never voting for that bastard. Carpet bombing Syria, you know what, I'm never voting for that bastard. But here's the thing. DeSantis gets in. I would be shocked if he didn't do a bunch of things that pissed me off as well. So I have to try and look at them, I have to try and analyze the situation, how they're acting, how they're talking. Trump right now sounded pretty good, I have to admit. Trump is, I think, rhetorically, he may be better than ever. I mean, the stuff about, and these are minor policy positions, but the stuff about architecture in cities, I really appreciate, because architecture is something that has been forgotten in this country. It's been dead for so long that, who remembers good architecture? Our grandparents? Maybe? Not even really. I mean, architecture died with the 60s, with the 50s, really. And ever since then, we've had nothing but glass and steel. Classicism is, it's history, literally. And so, when I look at old pictures of cities in the early 20th century America, late 19th century, really anywhere across the West, even the East, I mean, I think that, late 19th century, early 20th century, China and Japan, their cities were beautiful as well. In a different way, they had a different architectural style, but they did have architecture. Now, you look at a Chinese city, you look at a Japanese city, you look at a German city, you look at a British city, you look at an American city, it's all the same. It's all glass and steel. It's all dead. It's just godless opulence. It's shiny. That's it. It has no soul, no character, no nothing. And so Trump at least has paid lip service to an architectural revival in the United States. He did this on his way out with trying to mandate that all federal buildings be built to, classical architectural principles. Was reversed by Biden, of course, once he got in. But Trump could again put that back in place, make sure that as long as he's president, we have classical buildings being built. That is, that's a small victory, but it is something that's important. I think that things like this do matter. Culture matters. And architecture is a huge part of your culture. It's what surrounds us. It's our environment. If we build a godless, hedonistic environment, I mean, think of the kinds of evil people who become architects. They don't build buildings like this that are ugly for no reason. They do it because they're ugly people, because they have ugly souls. Righteous people create beautiful things. And so I'm not sold on this idea of building cities on federal land, which Trump is talking about, but the idea of building cities out of whole cloth, built on the foundation with classical principles, I think inevitably will produce the cities that are built like that are starting from that standpoint, are not going to attract the same godless animals that inhabit places like New York City or Los Angeles or Chicago. And if you remember, in the 19th century, in the early 20th century, these cities were not these beautiful classical cities. And I shouldn't even say that. I'm overusing the term classical in that context, because it wasn't strictly classical architecture at all. I mean, there was a lot of, certainly there was a common through line from classical architecture into what was at that time considered modern. But there are many architectural styles that are perfectly artistically valid, in my opinion. It doesn't have to be strict classicism. But they had principles. They were beautiful in their own way. It was not the chaos and nonconformity and just sharp edges of modernism. There was balance. There was reason. And I believe that these environments that were created by intelligent and righteous men cultivated more righteous societies. The New Yorkers who lived in New York City as it existed from 1900 to 1955, I believe fundamentally they were much better people than the New Yorkers who exist now. And that goes for all of us, I think. And it's not that architecture is the root of all evil in our society, or the lack of architecture is the root of all evil in our society. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that it's part of what we lost. And I think it's one of the first things that we lost. And so part of returning to what made America great is returning to something that has made societies throughout history great. Now, this video started in one place and ended someplace completely different, but you know what? I don't care. I missed 2 days, so I had a lot to say, so I essentially got 2 videos out of me. With that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.